Good day to you, and welcome back to the Booked Pro podcast. I got a special guest today. His name is Jim Armstrong. How's it going, Jim?
It's going well.
Cool. I'll give you a quick intro, just so everybody knows who we're talking to here. Jim Armstrong and I met through a mutual client that we're working with, and we developed a really fast friendship. We've been on the phone a couple of times, been on Zoom calls, and we decided that we needed to take this to the screen and record a official podcast. So Jim Armstrong has a company called Armstrong Marketing Services. He's been in home services for 30 years now. He also has a marketing mastery. He's also a marketing mastery columnist for Covering News. He's written 3 books for home services. He produces and co-hosts marketing mastery webinars for Covering News as well. And he also provides fractional CMO leadership for flooring and home service companies. What is going on, buddy?
Oh man, it's good to be here. I've been enjoying our conversations, and I think this will be a good continuation of that. So looking forward to digging into talking about sales and marketing.
That's a hell of an intro, man. Like, that's really cool. You've got a really awesome career. And so, how is the fractional CMO business?
I love it. I've been involved in in the home services world for since the early '90s, owning my own businesses in 2007. Actually, before that, in 2002, I wrote in my journal, my next business I want to run from a laptop at Lake Tahoe. I didn't know what that meant, and it took me 5 years to figure it out. But in 2007, I launched Flooring Success Systems, where I've been heavily involved in the flooring industry. Like you said, I do I write columns, I speak at all the events and written books. And what I have transitioned to is what I found I really like, Tony, is high level leadership
Yeah.
and coaching. I like helping home service businesses and floor dealers at a higher level where I can come in, if they're struggling with their marketing or marketing's chaotic, or well, like what happens with a lot of people is their marketing siloed. They've got all these different strategies out there, but it's not in one coherent, cohesive system. And so I love coming in and pulling all that together and creating change for these businesses.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so it's going well. I love it. I love what I'm
So,
doing.
as a testimony to what you're saying is, how we met was we have a mutual client, and this client is every client's special, right? We have a few special ed and a few special, if you know what I mean. I'm just kidding, but every client is special. But this one is really special. They've been with us since the very beginning. We just crossed our 2-year anniversary in March, and I just have a there's a special place in my heart for this company, and we've been with them through, I think, 2, 3, 4, and $5 million through growth over the last 2 years, and done everything we can to help them get there. And Jim was brought in recently by this company and to be a fractional CMO. And he's done an excellent job. Like, I just had a meeting with these guys earlier this week, and the impact that you're having on their business is outstanding. You're building culture. You're helping streamline their marketing, that whole give process that we agree in. And so it's a complete testimony to what you're doing in your experience, because you are having an impact on one of my favorite companies.
Man, that makes my day to hear you say that. This is, we won't name who they are, but they are in the flooring world, and they're like many home service businesses. They have a dream, and they find themselves in the position of building it up. They built a very successful business in terms of revenue. It's really amazing what they've done. But they're working 60, 70 hours a week. They've hit a ceiling. They fall into the same trap that many home service businesses fall into, and that is the business is owner dependent, meaning if the owner isn't there 60 hours a week, things start to fall apart. And we'll get into this in the conversation, kind of what's happening there, but ultimately what I want for them is to have a great life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we want them to make more money, we want the business to grow, but we want to do it in such a way that they get their lives back.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, why are you in business for yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think in entrepreneurship, we can agree that entrepreneurs have one thing in common. We all are willing to give, 15 hours a day. I'm being sarcastic, but in some cases, it's absolutely true.
Oh yeah.
To, we're going to work ungodly hard right now so that way we can enjoy something later, right? And
Yes.
it's different than an investor. An investor plays a long game, it's different. And we all share that. It's like, I'll kill myself now for less, doing less later, I think. But we
Yes.
all get caught up in this. And once we reach whatever said prize is or goal, we're always like, I want to keep going because this is a lot of fun and this is who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can do it more effectively.
Yeah, the example I give is a hot air balloon. If you've got a hot air balloon will go up until it reaches the rope that's tethering it to the ground and it can't gain any more altitude. It wants to go up, but there's this rope tying it to the ground, okay? That rope is the amount of hours a business owner can put in. There's a limit to it. Some people have a longer rope than others, some have a shorter rope, but eventually, if your business depends on how many hours you can put in, you're going to reach the end of that. And what we do is help them cut that rope.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We both subscribe to, like I said, a lot of philosophy around marketing, company message. And for me, it really goes into our key 3 principles in our company at Booked Pro, which we've talked about before, and we preach over and over and over again, is if you're ever going to spend $1 on marketing, it's got to generate lead flow, pillar 1. Constant, steady flow of opportunity coming in, right? You need opportunity coming in. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. It could come from form fills. It could come from phone calls. It could come from Google. It could come from putting flyers on telephone poles. I don't care, but it has to create lead flow for your business. That's the first pillar that we have to solve. And pillar 2 is where we specialize as a company at the Booked Pro, which is lead management. A lot of companies get in and they say, hey, I'm going to build a process. This person's going to manage the leads. This is what we're going to do with them. This is how we're going to follow up. A lot of time, that process of pillar 2 is just kind of created. Something's created and it just sits for too long unoptimized. And that's where we jump in with pillar 2, which you also have experience with. And then there's pillar 3. Pillar 3 is that sales process. It's like, what do you do? How do you communicate? How does the setters or pillar 2, set up sales for success? How do you close? How do you present value? How do you present solutions? How do you follow up from your proposals? It's like, how do you get that close rate up, right?
Exactly. And, circling back to the 3 pillars, in my experience over, just decades of working with home service businesses, tell me if you've seen this, Tony, they devote all their time, energy, and money into lead generation and nothing into the next 2.
Every other company.
Right. It's
and what's the next best? Lead gen and sales.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And with the niche that you're providing is so critically important is that lead management. If you're going to put ads out there and spend the money, you've got to have a system in place to manage those leads. And you need to have an on-purpose system that is deliberate, thought through, and maximizes your ROI. Otherwise, you are wasting 80% of your ad dollars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how many marketing companies get churned out, for doing a bad job when we're not looking up and down the funnel.
Exactly.
Right? It's isolated. It's an isolated problem that gets cut loose. And I think there's a lot of good companies out there that just don't get a shot,
Yeah, and I think you're correct is not taking a holistic look at your revenue generating machine, let's call it that, where it's everything. Dan Kennedy says, one of my early mentors, marketing is everything and everything is marketing. And that means from the way your phones are answered to the way the appointments are set to the way the salesperson arrives to how they present themselves, how they close the sale, how they follow up after the sale. And that's just the middle portion. That's also marketing. Before it is all the impressions they get before they make that phone call or do that form fill out or come walk into your place of business, what, the messages that you're sending. And then afterwards, what are you doing afterwards? This is another area where home services really drop the ball, is the vast majority ignore the only people on the planet who have proven they'll give them money in exchange for their services, their past clients. They just sit there in a database. And yeah, if they happen to call back and you get them as a repeat client, client, great, but nothing is engineered. There's no engineered process in place to ensure that they come back to you and only you and refer you and only refer you. Huge missed opportunity there. Everybody thinks in terms exactly what you said, Tony, lead gen, lead gen. If the sales are low on a given week, the solution is we need more leads. We need more leads. And it's often not. Can we talk about our mutual client? I think they would be a good case study
Yeah,
in
absolutely. Yeah. I was going to
so
say really quick is the number one thing, the number one and two thing I hear, because I've kind of put myself always in the front lines of lead management in my own company because I learn. And sometimes I take it over completely and restructure everything. So this is why I really like this process is two of the biggest things I hear from people that I talk to through discovery calls, through our marketing is one, I need more leads and my leads suck.
yes, exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And to your point, some leads, there are lead sources that are less good. Some I've seen lead sources that just produce garbage.
Absolutely.
However, the problem may not be a garbage lead source. You're making an assumption that it's a garbage lead source because you're not closing as many as you'd like, or you're getting a lot of people who, by the time you get back to them and return their call or what have you, or follow up, they've already gone with somebody else. And that's where you guys come in and making sure that you're maximizing the ROI on those channels. Don't assume that because a channel is producing what you feel is garbage leads, that it's that channel's fault. It might be or it might not be. You could easily dump a perfectly good marketing channel because your follow up and your management system is not what it needs to be.
Let me validate that for you heavily, right?
Okay.
So we manage a lot of leads. That's primary service that we do is we are lead managers. If anybody doesn't know, we have US team, base team, VA level people work from home across the country. We assign them to our clients to work on behalf of our clients, and their job is to speed the lead, form fills. I don't care where they come from, to get in front of that, qualify that, and then schedule it on their calendar and handle the reminders. And the ones that don't get in touch the first 5 minutes in the first day or so, we do call loops for like weeks, just to make sure that every dollar is squeezed out of that marketing expense. I'll give you an example. That's what we do. That's what qualifies me to say what I'm about to say. And
Okay.
I'm gonna upset a lot of people here. I'm gonna upset the 5 people that are watching, Jim. Is one is we manage a ton of Angie's List and Thumbtack. Every single person I talk to hates those lead sources. They're garbage. They're not. They're trash. They're blah, 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 blah. We turn for the people that we manage those lead sources, every single one of them are looking to increase their ad spend with those lead sources. Disclaimer. I do not work for Angie's. I'm not assigned to Angie's. I don't even like Angie's that much. They have done zero to support me and my company. And same with Thumbtack. Like I don't like them, but the management is everything. Every person I've ever gotten the phone, every pre-client that I've had and we've brought on board is like, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. And I'm just saying, test it, or let me to give me those leads. Let me convert those leads for you. It ends up working out. And it's because of the management part of it. When you're first, you're in there. And we can go through all the reasons why that's super important. It's the quality of the person. It's not AI on first touch. It is relationship building. It's real humans. It's representing a local company with local people faster and better than anybody else can do it. That's
Yeah.
where we win those opportunities. So that's part one to validate what you're saying. Is so the lead sources that everybody complains about, we are massively successful with them. The other thing that I find in this category, which is a very important, I would say, let's clip this one out, is the mindset of lead flow. That's a tough one because
Okay. What do
depending
you
on
mean
the
by
operator, if you're over $2.5 million roughly, you understand that you're probably getting over 100 to 200 leads a month because you're paying for it, right? You're paying for leads and opportunities, multiple sources. The smaller contractors or the smaller flooring dealers are typically investing, let's just say $500 to $2,500 a month in these in said lead flow or lead source. Now,
Yes.
there's two mindsets. And I'm going to use a gambling analogy. You have the gambler that goes on vacation to Vegas and loses his kid's college fund, right? And then you have the pro who stacks the deck and is a professional gambler.
Mm,
That analogy applies directly to lead flow. And I'll break this down a little bit more. The gambler that goes to Vegas on vacation is walking in and looking for a big win day one, day two, that he's there, that's it, and throwing all his money at it, right? Professional that stacks the deck is going to play the game over a longer period of time, right? So
yeah.
I'll give you an example. If I get 20 leads from one of these lead sources, right? Let's just say that our average is between 40 and 60 booked appointment rate, straight data from our numbers, right? Let's just say 50. So somebody gets 20 leads and let's say they book about 10% and then complain about it. That's truly the average. If they're getting about 10% of those leads, that leaves them with a few appointments. If their close rate is 40%, 30%, or even 50%, they're only getting one job, maybe two, maybe three out of those 20 leads if they're lucky, right?
Exactly.
Those jobs,
I've heard this over and over and over again myself.
yeah, those jobs are like, that's the hopper. The hopper is producing the opportunity. They could be like two small jobs and you could lose your ASS, right? And say, hey, this is never going to work again, and do that 2 months in a row. You haven't given the hopper an opportunity to produce you a return. But if I can do 50 leads or 100 leads, I can double, triple, or quadruple those numbers, right? And I give myself 10 opportunities to close a big job, and I'm more likely to be profitable off 10 closed jobs, 10 different jobs coming out of the hopper versus one or two. So
Yeah.
there's a long game there in time. And there's also a long game there in how many leads you're managing a month, because you have to give the math an opportunity to work.
I agree with that, but let's not forget the role that you're playing in that formula, and that is you have an on-purpose lead follow-up system. That's all you do.
Mhm.
And that is such a huge key to making this work, because right now, if you're using something like Angie's or Thumbtack, you're competing with, I mean, this is, you're getting total strangers who have no relationship with you at all, blasting their contact information out to 3 to 5 other companies. If you're going to play that game, you need to have the infrastructure in place to
Mhm.
win it. And what you guys do is you provide that infrastructure. And Tony, I've told my clients who are advertising in those different medias, and I look at their follow up system and management, and I go, okay, do a different lead source. You're not set up to win this game. You're just going to keep throwing money away. You're going to get 10% close rates on this. And what you do, Tony, is you come in and your company makes those, even those very challenging lead sources, profitable. So what you're doing is opening up channels that are closed to many professionals. They try it, they lose badly, and they abandon it. But which is the smart thing to do. Abandon it if you're not going to put in the correct system. What
Yeah.
you're doing, Tony, is you're opening up a whole new avenue of profitability for these businesses who otherwise would fail at it.
Yeah. And yeah, there's another avenue there. You're absolutely right. The impact that I really like is the third pillar, though. And what I really like in our synergy together and with our mutual client is like, hey, what are we doing right now? Since we have a dedicated setter team, and let's just say for this client, we booked 150 appointments last month for them. It's insane. It's awesome. And so it's like, hey, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing, right? So we talked about lead flow, lead management. Let's dive into like, hey, what's that synergy look like? Our conversations on how our setters are trying to set the sales team up for success and what we're doing to test and improve the
So,
close rate.
well, yeah, let's talk about that. But if I could, let me back up and give
Oh
kind
yeah.
of a bigger picture of what our approach. I think this would be a good case study for your listeners. So we have our mutual client. They're doing, they're doing about they're north of 4 million in revenue, and 6 to 8 different marketing channels all coming in. They're disconnected. They're siloed. They've got a ton of leads coming in. When I stepped in as their CMO, the first thing I do is I look at everything. I look at sales, I look at marketing, I look at all the numbers. And what I discovered through that process was the biggest early opportunity was not, they didn't need more leads. They didn't need to throw more at advertising. Okay. And I'm the chief marketing officer, and I'm telling them, don't add any more advertising yet.
Yep.
Don't do any of that, because what we identified is that their close ratio is too low. They're down below 30%. So out of 10, if they go out on 10 sales appointments, they're closing between 2.5 to 3. Okay, that's very low. That's not acceptable. And what we can do is, just by increasing that to 50%, that's our North Star, is we've set that. Now we have other marketing goals too that we're going to accomplish, but our first big priority, we call it our North Star, is we're going to get you from under 30% to 50% close ratios. Because if we do that, they've nearly doubled their revenue, added what, 80% to their
Yeah,
revenue.
we worked out those numbers. What were those numbers?
Oh my God, it's going to be, they're adding, I mean, we're talking 7 figures. Okay.
Yeah,
So this is
I
a
think it was
big,
like 170,000 a month or something. I can't remember. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
they're adding 7 figures without adding another dime in
Mm.
marketing costs.
Yep.
Okay. I'll take that all day long.
100. Yeah.
Okay. So we're focusing a tremendous amount of our time on the selling. And so the selling starts with the appointment setter. Really, when that phone call comes in, the sales process is starting. So I want to talk about what we're doing, but let me talk about what I'm doing with their sales team, and then
Please.
we'll bring in how we're
Yeah.
using
This
their
is
team.
brilliant. I love this. Yeah, go.
Okay, so one of the things that Walt Disney said was, whatever you do so well and so uniquely that others can't help but talk about you. So we want to create a selling system that does that. Every prospective client that is shopping for your flooring, HVAC, plumbing, whatever your service is, every prospect has an unspoken question, and you should write this down. The unspoken question is, why should I do business with you versus your competitors, doing it myself, or doing nothing?
Hmm.
Okay. I learned that from Dan Kennedy decades ago, and it transformed the way I thought about marketing, because most companies do a piss poor job at answering that question. Let me tell you what is not a good answer to that question. Number one in customer satisfaction, great service guaranteed, in business for 20 years, family owned and operated. Nobody gives a shit about that. That does
No,
not answer is it okay to curse on this
of
podcast?
course.
Okay,
I'm
all right.
I'm a big fan of cursing. Not a lot of people are, but I try to keep
All right.
myself in check, but I'm not good at it.
All right. So nobody cares about that. Okay. People care about 3 things: benefits, benefits, benefits.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me? Okay.
Yep.
So, in answering that unspoken question, the company that answers that question most effectively gains an enormous competitive advantage over all the other players in their niche. So I apply that thinking, the unspoken question, to everything, way pre funnel, top of the funnel, mid funnel, end of the funnel, and post funnel. Why should I do business with you versus every option available to me, including your direct competitors, doing it myself, or doing nothing? And we answer that question in dozens of different ways. So, how does that apply to the sales process? So, I think the best way would just be to outline, I'll give you an example of what I'm teaching. Way you want to position yourself is not as the proverbial used car salesman. You want to be the family doctor, the trusted advisor. Okay. So when somebody comes in, when you go to the doctor's office and you're sitting there in the exam room, does the doctor burst in and say, okay, tell me what kind of pills you had in mind today? But first, let me tell you about our specials. We've got 2 for 1 on Viagra, half off on penicillin, and buy one, get one free on antidepressants.
Yeah.
Okay. That that's not what a doctor does. A doctor comes in, diagnoses, asks diagnostic questions, then prescribes the solution.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is the opposite of what most salespeople do. They go in and whatever you're selling, they ask, okay, what type of flooring did you have in mind? Or what type of window treatments? What are we thinking here? No, 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 no. You're a doctor. So you go in. So here's how I'll just kind of outline
Yeah.
kind of the 30,000-foot view of the process. So we have salesperson call, 10 minutes before they arrive. When they arrive, they're dressed professionally, company polo shirt, dress nice, carrying a computer case or a briefcase. They knock on the door, and when they're invited in, they stop on the entryway and they put on medical shoe covers. That instantly communicates that you care, that you're going to be careful, and it, I think, subliminally implants the idea of you being a doctor. When I had my carpet cleaning company and I did that,
Hmm.
so many of my clients called me Dr. Armstrong
That's funny.
because of those
Great
shoe
name.
covers.
Jim,
Yeah,
I'm getting
Dr.
doctor vibes from you. I agree.
Okay. Well, then what we do is we say, Mrs. Jones, is there someplace we could sit down together for a few minutes? I've got some questions I need to walk you through. So we sit down and then we say something like this, and this is a flooring example, but it works with any niche. Is, Mrs. Jones, flooring is a major decision and it's a critical part of your interior design. And there are many options out there, and it can be a little confusing and even overwhelming. And so, what we do is we have a process called the design consultation. And we're going to do several things during our time together today to make the process, narrow down the options to the exact flooring that is perfect for you and make the process fun and simple. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through some questions that are going to give me an idea of your design taste, level of traffic, and your goals for your flooring. Then I'm going to measure and inspect all the areas, and then I'm going to go over pricing with you. Now, we don't do estimates. Instead, we do exact, no surprise, written, guaranteed quotes. So you know exactly what you're going to pay. How does that sound? And we get a
Yeah.
micro and a buy in. Then we go through a questionnaire with them, an actual questionnaire where you ask the questions and either input the answers on a tablet or write them out on a form. Okay. And then we measure and inspect all the areas. With in the flooring world, we there's a room visualization software. So we get those photos, we upload it to pictures of the client's room, so we can show them exactly what the floor looks like in their space. And then when while we're there inspecting, we do things like if they've got a dog, pet, most people have pets, we have doggy treats we'll give them. If they've got a kid, that's, a young child, we'll have a coloring book and some crayons we'll give to them so they can, keep some occupied. We'll get permission to do a quick vacuum inspection to make sure their vacuum is running properly. We'll look at the types of cleaners they're using in their home, the walk-off mats, and we get permission to do all of this, and we explain to them why and why it's in their best interest. Then when we sit back down, let them look through a book of testimonials while we're putting the quote together, because what others say about you is 100 times more effective than what you say about yourself. So we let other customers help do the selling. Then we go over this 4x guarantee. There's 4 parts to the guarantee, and each one of those guarantees answers the unspoken question: why should we do business with you versus your competitor?
Hmm.
We have them present ideally 3 different quotes, good, better, best. Now, that's not always possible depending on your service that you're offering, but many times it is. And I encourage you to look for a way to do a good, better, best, because now they have it, instead of having a choice between you and somebody else, they have a choice between you, you, and you. Okay.
Yeah, I heard Alex Hormozy talk about this, and it was really kind of it's a concrete company, and he was talking about them going out and competing with everybody else versus him recommending that somebody comes out and say, "Hey, start it with the highest quote possible, like the premium concrete, stamping, coloring, whatever it is." Like, they
Mhm.
say their first question is like, "Why are you 15,000 and the other ones are 7?" Oh, well, this is
Mhm.
why, and it kind of
Yeah.
answers the question why, and then it gives you an opportunity to work back down. You'll typically get more than that 7 that they're initially looking at. And it was brilliant the way I'm sure I'm leaving out 90% of it, but you know what I mean?
Oh, but you got the concept nailed by having three options. And yeah, starting with the highest, that's a solid strategy.
Yeah.
Because a percentage of them will go with the highest. And if
Yeah.
you hadn't offered them, you'd never have gotten it.
Yeah.
And and the nice thing about having different offers is one of the questions we always ask in the question portion of it is, what's your budget for this project?
Yeah.
Well, if their budget's way out of line, way too low, we can manage expectations. But what we can also do is make sure that one of those three options, probably the lowest, meets their budget.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can go down the I mean, this is awesome stuff. Like, I'm just now thinking, like, hey, breaking it up between financing and cash.
Yeah,
Kind of stretch the budget a little bit. There's so
yeah.
many strategies in here, and this is why you're so impactful for this company. And
Mhm.
it's going to be really exciting to see them reach, the $10 million mark, and it's going to happen next couple of years.
Well, we're just getting started. We're a little over a month in, and we're
Mhm.
just really getting the ball moving. This is a company. You get up over $4 or $5 million. You're not. It's like turning a cruise ship. It takes a little bit of time to set a new direction. But I knew ahead of time that we would have to address the appointment setting end of it
Mhm.
because there's a huge opportunity there. And
Mhm.
so what's been so great is to come in and work with you and your team who's handling all this appointment setting. And I know you and Alan were like begging this client to, let's get some synergy between the appointment, what happens at the sales call,
Mhm.
and what happens in the appointment setting. And so we're now able to do that. So now we
Yeah, I love this. Yeah.
we came up with a process where when your team calls out to the leads, they hear something completely different than what everybody like if it's a let's say it's an Angie's lead and there's
Mhm.
5 recommendations. Well, our client is going to sound apples and oranges different from the minute your team calls them.
Mhm.
They're going to leave that call going, this is utterly different than anything that anybody I've talked to. We want them leaving that call understanding several things. One, this is not just another measure and toss out a number. Two, this is a consultative process that greatly benefits me, and I want to be there for it and be present for it.
Mhm.
Third, that it really is important that the decision maker, but all decision makers are there because that's going to be good for us if all the decision makers are there.
Mhm.
And that when the person comes out, they are going to get a completely different process that I need to be present for. And we created a script and a call flow that makes that happen.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna make this like a nugget for everybody right here. This is very important because when we assessed together, and you did this with the client, is like, hey, what is the number one what do you call it objective that the client gives when they don't buy, right? And we identified together that one of the biggest ones is I need to talk to my spouse, right? We all know that one. That's a standard. So what we decided for the month of May, which I like. So how are we going to go from, 30% to 50% is the month of May, we're not going to do anything different. And correct me if I'm wrong, because you're on the side of this is how do we identify that objective? So we are having our setters when they do that first call and they set the appointment. We're going to ask if there's if there's a spouse, a decision maker, or how are we going to phrase that? Like, is there somebody else that needs to make a color?
Yeah, how many
Opinion about color?
a color, or what is it? A color? How did they say that?
But anyway, identify it and tag the lead up front, meaning there are two decision makers. And then
Yeah,
we're going to ask nicely, not require, but ask nicely that you both are there because there's going to be color decisions to be made.
yeah,
And then when the salesperson shows up at the door of the house, they're going to tag on their side if both of them are there. So
yeah.
we're going to see,
Who
yeah.
showed up? Was there one or two decision makers? There's two decision makers. Okay, the appointment, did one or two decision makers actually appear for the appointment?
And what's the delta? Like, what is in there? Is that the gap? Did they give a reason, an objective saying, hey, I need to talk to my wife because they didn't show up? So, because that's one of the biggest movers in close rate, we're going to identify the gap first and then do our best to close the gap. We have
Well,
clients that say they're really strict about it, meaning almost too strict in my opinion, but this is what they ask and this is what we do is we require both decision makers to be there. Can you please confirm that they will be there? And then when we get there, they actually give them a hard time if they don't. Like, it's kind of weird, but they actually have a really great close rate and they only go to houses for one call closes, kind of like Empire, right? That's
yeah.
their strategy. They're never going to go back because they feel like they're not even worth it. So they need a 50% close rate and they're trying to get their appointments down to just people exactly who they want, where they're at in the construction process, decision makers and all that stuff. And more of a hard line than we are with a local company like this.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. The that could be a viable strategy, is requiring both decision makers. So you came up with this idea, Tony, to track this closely, the number of decision makers existing in that household
Mm-hmm.
versus how many show up for the appointment.
Yeah.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to track that over 1 to 2 months, and we're going to see, if there are two decision makers and only one shows up, what is our close rate?
Mm-hmm.
And if it turns out that it's seriously damaging our close rate, well, now the numbers will tell us whether we need to implement a mandatory policy that both decision makers are there.
Here's the thing about this that I really like, right? And I just gave you the hardline example from one of my customers that requires it, like
Hmm.
really requires it, right? And it puts up a hard sell, which I'm just never a fan of hard selling. I'm sorry. What I really like is that, like, I think about this as how do I influence both decision makers to want to be there? To me is like that's how you in my eyes, in my world, that's what I would want to set up. I don't want to and I know we're just picking on words here and I know you didn't mean require, but how do we influence them to the point where, like, hey, like, I want to be here for this meeting because this is awesome. This is going to, if we can excite them about the change that's about to happen in their house, whatever it is, we want them to want to be there because that's where the close rate is really going to increase rather than saying they have to be there, we're not coming out.
Right. And
You got to come back from that.
yeah, so what we've done with your appointment setters, what we've come up with is making sure that, remember, everybody cares about three things: benefits, benefits, benefits. So how do we make this requirement we have? They don't care about our requirements.
No, they
They
don't.
don't, they don't care that we need both of them there. They don't. No, 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 no. How does it benefit them? And so it
Mhm.
benefits them. One, this is a major decision, and we let them know that in the call. This is a big, important decision you're going to make. Second, we don't want you to have to play middleman and go back and forth and delay getting these beautiful floors for you and making it a bigger hassle. So by having both of them there, it makes everybody gets to ask questions. It makes the process smoother for you, and you get your new floors faster. So we position it as a benefit to them.
And let's think about this for a second. Like, how do you influence versus demand, right? And this is completely shooting from the hip here. What if you not offered something, but hey, if this, obviously the words are going to be wrong here because this is an initial thought, but how do you say like, hey, if you and your husband could be there, or you and your spouse could be there, or you and your roommate could be there, you guys are there together. I'm more than happy to, I don't know, give you guys a dinner, or not dinner, but I don't know, something like
Stiff,
align
something.
something with the behavior. Free baseball. You can't do free baseball. I don't know.
It depends. I would say for me personally,
Mm.
it would depend on the situation.
Yeah.
Uh, is it in the situation of this client, not a fan of going that direction? To me, it feels a little bit like, oh, when those people that are selling timeshares and they want to make sure both spouses
Oh
are
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Give you $50 in gambling chips if you
yeah.
come to the presentation, and that not that that's a bad strategy.
No,
Not
I'm not with that strategy either, though. Like, I don't know the line. I don't know
I,
the.
Well, in other words, I think it could be the right strategy in the right situation.
Mhm.
We're trying to position this client as family doctors, and
Yeah,
family doctors, they don't do that. And
yeah,
so
that's true.
that
Yeah,
would be so for this situation, we opted not to do that, but that isn't to say that there isn't an application for it where
yeah,
in a spiff or a reward of some kind when they're both there. Yeah.
yeah, totally. No, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. It was just a thought that I was having about, rewarding the behavior that you're looking for, kind of.
Well, the other thing that we do in the scripting, we're very careful about it. We're very deliberate in that the way the script is worded, it doesn't say you have to have them there. It just says it assumes they're going to go along with it because it's so much in their benefit. So
Yeah.
the script goes something like this. So, the what we found that gets the best results is when for the our clients is when both decision makers are there. That way they can both ask questions. You don't have to play middleman and go back and forth and tell them what you saw and then come back and ask questions again. And so we just found that the process works more smoothly for our clients.
Have
Um, are more, but then here's the part of the punchline I'm getting to. Don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, yeah, no,
This,
please, yeah. You just gave me
this
an idea, yeah.
this is the punchline. Is we assume that they're going to be there. We say something like this. So are afternoons or evenings better for both of you to be able
Yeah.
to attend this? And then let them say, nah, it's just going to be me there and that's it, right? So we just assume they're going to go along with it. It's a
Yeah.
way of applying. It's like pressure in judo.
Mhm.
We're using their own body weight to move them. We're not shoving. We just flow, right? If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
It's funny, you just said that judo thing, and I used that analogy the other day, for something else. It was for
Uh-huh.
coaching and disruptions in coaching, and I was like,
Okay.
totally got the analogy wrong. I got the wrong discipline, and it just reminded me. What did I say? I said something else, but you're right. It's judo for sure. Yeah. I like that a lot. And I was thinking is like, have you ever toyed with or tested with saying, here's a list of questions to ask for multiple different reasons? Like, hey, in your appointments, these are kind of the common, not answering them or maybe answering them. I don't know. But like, here's some of the best questions that's ever been asked during our appointment. To just kind of anticipate that mindset. And it kind of hedges the bet against anybody else that might be coming out to the house too.
So do you mean questions that you might get from the client or the prospect, or what do you
Yeah,
mean?
clients are more educated today than they ever have been through the
Okay.
internet. But you're like, after you set the appointment, maybe sending out like, hey, these are the best questions we've ever been asked about, new installing new floors in the house.
Oh, like an
Right.
FAQ thing.
Right. Well, I mean, not an FAQ, but like you're literally giving them the questions to ask, is my point.
Giving who the questions to
The,
ask?
the, the homeowner, the client, the lead.
Giving them the questions to
It's
ask.
like an FAQ, but it's like saying like it's like this. You wouldn't say it on the setting call, but you would say maybe with an automated email that goes out to them. Thank you for booking an appointment. Here's a lot of really great questions for you to ask, and it could align with your sales process, and it could
Oh,
also
I
hedge
see.
you against any competition to make sure you're asking the right questions. In the flooring
Ah,
world, it'd be like, hey, am I getting polyester? Or am I getting smart strand? You know what I'm
I
saying? Like,
gotcha. I gotcha. Okay, so I understand now. Sorry, I was a little
no,
dense
you're
on.
fine. I just had a thought. You gave me that thought. It's kind of
No,
setting up the sale, right?
Okay, so I haven't done exactly what I've done something very similar to what you said, and that is we created a free report for our clients that gave them 5 questions to ask any floor dealer before buying. And the 5 questions were like totally teed up our client as the winner. Our client
Yeah.
would be, we knew would be the only one that could answer those 5 questions correctly. One, can I
Yeah.
see a
That's what I'm
list?
talking about.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, do you have a zero regrets guarantee?
Yeah.
Do you have a list of testimonials I can see? Do you have an installer professionalism guarantee? Do you have a guaranteed no surprise quote? So all these things, these
I
differentiators
love
that
that.
we are building into the system, we would have in our free report. Here's what to ask every other person you're getting a quote from.
Yeah. Here's the
Exactly.
five
I
most
love that
important questions
strategy.
to ask.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Our team, we can answer them in the correct way, and we
Yeah.
know
I
no.
love that. Are you doing that with this client?
We're not there. We're getting there.
That's
Yes,
awesome. I like
yes,
that. Those are
yes,
great questions too. That's what I'm talking about.
yes.
That's the thought that you gave me, and
That's
it's
a great. That's a. It took me a minute to understand what you were saying, but that's actually really effective. I love
yeah,
that.
that's a good one.
Yeah, yeah.
Good stuff,
So
man. I
what
love
what
it.
I've what I've really appreciated in working with you is what we're getting at is what now we have the appointment setters are setting up our sales team for success. They've begun the sales process. And it's just when this now when the sales team member arrives and is doing these things that are different than what
Mhm.
maybe they've gotten 3 other quotes, and our team member comes in and they're completely different.
Yeah,
They're expecting it.
yeah,
We've set them up for success. Yeah.
yeah. I like that. That's awesome.
So then what we're going to do is because getting us to the 50% close rate is our North Star, we're focusing a tremendous amount of our energy right now on that. But the next thing that we're going to do is begin channel optimization. And that is we've got, 8 or 10 different channels sending leads in from different places.
Mhm.
And we're going to be, while we're getting the sales dialed in, we're doing some very robust tracking. Most people don't do very good tracking. They know how many leads they got and they know how much money they made from a channel at best.
Yeah,
Okay. So what we're tracking is each channel, a whole lot of different critical KPIs that are going to tell us where this channel is working, where it's falling down, and that's going to allow us to make some decisions. Keep a channel, tweak the channel, or dump the channel. And that's going to be an iterative process that's going to happen over months and months. But we're taking all of these siloed marketing campaigns. I mean, if you're working with a Google Ads expert, a an Angie's ad vendor, a Thumbtack or whatever, they all have their reports that they generate. And what most dealers have is 10 different reports, and they're trying to make a decision based on that. What we're
yeah,
doing is putting those all together into a central dashboard so we can see, compare apples to apples. How many leads is Google generating? What's our return on ad spend? How many appointments are we setting? How many are we closing? And literally we're looking at 14 different KPIs for each
love it.
channel that's going to allow us to make intelligent decisions. We'll let the numbers tell us what to do, not emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah, you've run into that, I'm sure, Tony, where you've got people who are all leads are slow week, so let's go buy more advertising.
yeah. Just throwing more money at ad spend. You got to evaluate. Cost per lead. How many of those leads are qualified? How many of those leads were reached? How
Yeah.
many of those leads were scheduled? How many of those leads closed?
Hmm.
There's a lot of good information there. Cost per, booked appointment,
Yep.
cost per phone call, cost per conversation. All that stuff gives you the insight to be able to fix up or down the funnel in the process. Super
Exactly.
important. Yeah.
And I get it, but owner operators, they started their business, maybe just out of their truck, their plumbing or their HVAC business, and it's grown into maybe they've got 5 or 6 trucks now. and they're pulled in so many directions and go, God, when am I going to have time to do this? Well, you're
Yeah.
not. You get people who can pull all of this together for you.
Yeah.
Um, oh, I just had a thought. So remember what we talked about earlier, is answering the unspoken question.
Hmm.
Why should I do business with you versus your competitors, doing it myself or doing nothing? What we're also going to do in those channels is, okay, are we doing a good enough job answering the unspoken question? So, like for example, we're running Google ads right now, and it's taking them to a landing page that has a price offer. Now, I'm not against price, low price, discount offers in all cases. And maybe this discount offer is actually has a really good ROI. We don't know yet because we're just now installing the tracking. But what we're going to look at is, okay, is this price offer attracting a lot of people who then beat you up on price, cause your, sales close rates to tank, etc. And so what we may do is put in a because the way the unspoken question is being answered in that ad is price discount. That's why you should pick us over our
Yeah.
competitors, is because we're giving you a price discount. Okay, let's try a different answer. Let's A B split test. One, we'll send half the traffic to the price discount and maybe half the traffic to an alternate landing page that says you'll love your new floors or we'll replace them free.
Yeah.
Whoa, now there's an answer to the unspoken question that doesn't involve price. And we can
Yeah.
let those bake for a while and we'll see which one wins.
Yeah. It's
Now,
isolate, test, measure, pivot. And I love doing
exactly.
A/B. I love doing A/B split tests like that. From a marketing brain, not a lead management brain, but I love doing those types of A/B split tests geographically, right?
Mm,
Because hey, we'll replace your carpet guaranteed is maybe your better in neighborhood stuff like that, more disposable income, and then splitting your your room, like one room at LVT or whatever, by by geographic location. Those typically land really well when you do that.
there's all kinds of ways to slice that and dice
Yeah.
that and test. But the point is we're looking at actual numbers and letting those tell us, you
Guide by
know,
the numbers, not your emotions.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I get it. You get a slow month, it's tempting to want to go out and just do a bunch of ads.
Yep.
Um, Often that's not the answer.
Nope. It's always play the long game. Entrepreneurship is about survival. How long are you in the game? Got to give yourself the biggest window possible to be successful. Learn, test, grow, pivot.
Mhm.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I learned again from Dan Kennedy is creating a zero resistance selling environment.
Hmm.
You know, People oftentimes are looking for that magical close phrase, that magical script, that magical something that'll be like a silver bullet that enables them to close, all the sales that they're hoping to.
Yeah.
But the definition of environment is the aggregate of surrounding conditions, things, or influences. So when
Hmm.
you create a zero resistance selling environment, you are every element in there is designed to make you want to buy, want
Yeah.
to open your wallet and give you money in exchange for your services.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good stuff, Jim. I mean, I'm excited to work with you. I'm excited to share more clients with you. I'm excited for our synergy and the growth of our clients. So, thanks you for jumping in. Thank you
Yeah.
for taking on that client because I know that's going to be very enriching for us to be able to go to the next level. This is the first time we've really been able to work with somebody on the sales process. I've been envisioning this. I've been thinking about this. Hey, we can do this. We can do that. We can do this. We just need somebody on that side to help us,
Sure.
implement, execute.
Yeah, and it's I feel like you asked me earlier how, CMO leadership is going, and it's what I enjoy so much about this is because I can come in, I'm not pulled in a thousand different directions like the owner oftentimes
Yeah.
is. I'm able to come in with a fresh set of eyes
Hmm.
and look at it from a non-emotional point. Plus, I have the bandwidth for it. That's what I do. And so it frees the owner up to focus on building their business, not and having an awesome lifestyle versus once we get this the marketing dialed in and the sales dialed in. As we do that, we're going to grow and expand. We're going to onboard more team members. We're going to free up the owners so we cut their work hours probably by 2/3.
Yeah.
I anticipate within 12 months to 18 months that they'll be working instead of 60 to 70 hours a week, 20 under 30 hours, and be able to take vacations and all of that.
I love that. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
So answer me one question.
Okay.
If somebody wants to work with you, how do they find you?
Okay. Just go to armstrongmarketingsystems.com and all my information's there.
That's awesome. You reach out in your socials, and you got any socials you want to plug?
So not at the moment. That would be the best way. Go to armstrongmarketingsystems.com.
armstrongmarketingsystems.com. I got it.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, I manage and I touch a lot of my own leads. I love to be the face of my company as much as humanly possible. So if you do reach out, you can visit us on any social, The Booked Pro out there, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, name it. You can also go to thebookedpro.com for the website. I would also encourage you when you're there, download our playbook. It's 2026 growth playbook. It is lead management. It's the explanation of all the services that we do. It is, like an idea, the framework for pillar 1, pillar 2, pillar 3. It is 100% free, and you'll get it for free. And then I'll probably reach out to you and say hi. And it is me personally. And I love to network. I'm not going to get you on the phone and close you, because networking creates opportunities and relationships like I have with Jim here. And I want that with you. So a little bit different. So no headlock, no hard sell. Let's work together to, make all of our dreams come true, Jim.
I agree. That's why we're in business.
That's why I like it. Yep.
Ultimately.
Love this. Cool. Well, I'm going to call it, man. That was a good podcast. We're just over an hour. So you know how to get a hold of Jim. You know how to get a hold of me. Tune in for the next one.
Thank you so much, Tony. It's a lot of fun being here.
Thank you too, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Stay on for me.
Bye.